You've seen this on the YouTubes already, I am sure of it. Turning off the oven completely, having loaded your bread dough, might seem backwards, but it does work in creating amazing, possibly better than ever, oven spring. The question is, why does it work? How do we do it? And how come this has been staring us in the face for so long and nobody even noticed? Roll it. Hey home bakers, we've spoken in great depth about oven spring before. It's the volume increase when your dough hits the heat of the oven. That's what makes your bloomers bloom. That's what makes our crusts bust open. But you already knew that, didn't you? Turning off your oven completely works. And if that's what you came here for, then brilliant. Great, there you go. Off you go. Go try it. Load up your bread dough as normal. Steam up the oven as normal. Turn it off completely. Set a timer for 8 to 10 minutes and turn it back on for the remaining bake. If you're still here and want to hear me talk for a bit, that's good because I like to talk. In the olden days, I used to recommend baking your bread on as high a temperature as possible with plenty of steam, at least for that first initial 10 minutes, and then turn it down to bake through to the middle if you need to. Why? Because that's what I was taught. That's what I used to do in my oven at home, and that's what gave me great results. Heat makes your loaf jump up. Gas expands when it warms up, that's science. And the yeast goes crackers, making additional gas as it's warming up as well. The theory checks out, but there are two other things at play here, and let me do my best to explain that in the only way I know how. At some point, your loaf is going to dry out on the outside, and it's going to stall the puff. It's not going to grow any further. That's one of the reasons why we use steam, to delay that from happening, right? Also, inside your loaf, at some point the yeast is going to sadly die, stop making more bubbles, and the internal structure of the loaf is also going to set its shape. External and internal. As I spent the next few years of Bake with Jack baking bread, hosting classes in other people's houses, using their own kitchens and their own ovens, I soon found out that not all ovens are the same. In fact, they're all completely different and require almost their own set of instructions, which is a massive topic and one I'm keen to speak about later down the line. Sometimes I found that the high heat principle had the opposite effect. And what I'm talking about here is that some ovens were higher heat than mine, some were drier inside than mine, and so the high heat principle would stall the puff too soon. Everything would dry out too soon and it would have the opposite effect. That's why turning your oven off is worth a try. The way I see things, your oven is doing two things. It's pushing heat into your loaf, and it's also pushing a flow of air around your loaf. Turning your oven down straight after loading or off completely stops these two things happening, allowing your loaf to sit in a hot box and continue to grow. It's almost like your loaf is proven up in fast motion, if that makes any sense whatsoever. Puff happens above and beyond what is happening during the proof at ambient temperature on your kitchen side at home. If steam delays the crust from forming, the external setting of the loaf, then turning off that heat, turning off that push of heat to the middle, then delays the internal setting of the loaf, right? The idea of this has fascinated me for a while because the first time I heard of it, there was some clickbaity YouTube video and I was like, yeah, whatever. And then I watched it and then I tried it and I observed what happens and I realized this idea had been staring me in the face the entire time I've been making bread. A memory emerged in the back of my mind of the first time I baked bread inside of an Aga. If you don't know what an Aga is, it's AGA. It is a solid cast iron stored heat stove what is running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, often powered by oil, sometimes powered by gas, these days powered by electricity. It's on all the time. It's solid cast iron. Historically, people probably used it to heat their home as well as bake inside it, cook inside it, on top of it, and probably dry their laundry on the side. The point is that it's hot. The whole thing is cast iron. It's hot and heavy and therefore holds the heat well. There is no push of air around the loaf. There is no push of heat inside the loaf in the same way that there is in an electric or a fan or a gas household oven. An electric oven clicks back on after you shut the door to maintain the temperature inside and make up for the temperature that's lost. A gas oven fires up that flame when you shut the door to maintain the heat inside and make up for the heat that's lost. That's the push of heat and that is the air flow. In an Aga, there is none of that stuff. It's hot and heavy, it holds the heat. There is none, or at least there is none of the severity of the previous examples. It is a hot box in the same way that a baker's brick-lined oven is a hot box. And the first time I baked in one, 8 years ago probably, I was blown away by the fact that the beetroot loaf that I was baking at the time just continued to expand and grow above and beyond anything I'd ever previously expected. So then by turning your oven off at home, you're creating a hot box of stored heat where there is no flow, no push, and instead your loaf is able to sit and bloom in peace. This is a massive win, certainly for stone baked breads like baguettes or this bloomer from the recipe video a couple of weeks ago for your sourdough loaf, because not only are you creating that hot box inside, but you've got that stone that is there with stored heat. It holds the heat inside so that when your oven goes off, it just isn't just a tin box just cooling down really fast. Ooh, isn't it lovely? They're all learning here still and always, and that there are always crossovers. This idea reminded me of that loaf I baked in an Aga 8 years ago and every single one I've done since then. It all comes together, and it's also part of the reason why a Dutch oven works so well. Contained hot environment, holding heat without the push, without the airflow drying things out. The principle is exactly the same. So try it. After all, that is the best test, isn't it? Preheat your oven and your stone well, load all your dough up, steam it up like normal, turn it off for 8-10 minutes if you're feeling brave. Results depend on what you're baking, how much you're baking, and the characteristics of your oven at home. But hey, everything is worth a go as you continue on your home baker's journey. Go on. See you soon.